onto four-year college for the incumbent, for president. And I say that for this reason. If they want to go in the military, why, he's planning on cutting our military by about $1 trillion over the next decade. And if they want to go on to either get a job directly or go on to a four-year college and come out with a degree, why, you know that 50% of kids coming out of college today can't find a job or a college-level job. So on both fronts, this president's policies have not worked for the young people of America. And one more thing, and that is, not only will they have a hard time finding a job, given the economy this president's produced, and not only will they have a military that is becoming devastated, in the words of the Secretary of Defense, devastated by these defense cuts, they'll also have hundreds of, well, thousands and thousands of dollars of debt on their shoulders that were amassed by this administration, because the president adds about $1 trillion a year to the national debt. So these guys, if they keep voting, if anybody who's a young person going to college today keeps voting for the president, why, they get more debt, fewer jobs, and a smaller military. I represent a very different course. I'll make sure that the young people of today have great jobs tomorrow and have a bright and prosperous future. That's the difference between us. It's been a bit of a coincidence of events over the last few days, but I'm honored to be one more time today in a place that honors the service of our men and women in uniform. I was yesterday, and I was in Springfield, Virginia yesterday, and had the chance to be with Colonel Leo Thorsness, who was the recipient of the Medal of Honor. He served our nation in Vietnam, was in a prisoner of war camp for 6 years. He is an extraordinary leader who helped bring together for me some 43 Medal of Honor recipients to support my campaign. Quite a hero. I appreciate him and appreciated the other soldiers I saw there. And the night before, I was in Toledo, Ohio. And as my plane was leaving to go to Washington, D.C. and Virginia, there was another plane coming in. It was an honor flight, bringing home our veterans who'd served in the Second World War and the Korean War. They had been in Washington, D.C., and there they had been able to see the memorials in honor of their service. And as they came off the plane, one by one, I got the chance to shake their hands and express my appreciation for their service. As they go from me back into the building that was going to have a celebration in their honor, they had to walk through a long pathway where on each side, men and women holding American flags were standing, cheering on these veterans as they walked by. At the end of the long trail of veterans came those that were on wheelchairs. And the last men and women that came down were brought down a long ramp on their wheelchair. The second to the last individual was a Second World War veteran, pretty senior. And when he came down, I shook his hand. And then they began to wheel him through this long alley of flags. And he stopped the person, as I recall it was a young woman, he stopped her for a moment, said, "Wait a second," and then he reached in with some difficulty and then pulled out a little American flag and began waving that flag. We're a nation of patriots. We love this country. We recognize that the principles upon which this country was founded, that those principles distinguish us as an exceptional nation. We recognize that when the founders said that our rights came not from the king, not from government, but from God, that changed everything. One of our national hymns says it well, in my view. "Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life." For all of you who served in our military, would you please raise your hand? And those that are also in the military today, please raise your hand and be recognized. Thank you. Now, about a year ago, I had the opportunity to speak at the Citadel in South Carolina where also another military academy was training young people to consider a career in the military. And just like this group of cadets behind me, they didn't move when I told my jokes, so I learned not to worry about that. But at that address that I gave there, I said a number of things that I thought were important. One was that this next century, the one we're now in, must be an American century. And by that I mean that America must continue to lead the free world, and the free world must continue to lead the entire world. There are other models out there, and there are people around the world wondering, should we follow America and the model of freedom with opportunity that's presented by economic freedom and personal freedom and economic freedom, or should we instead follow the model of a nation like China, for instance, whose economy is growing? Do you understand that China's economy is growing at about 7 or 8%? Russia's economy is growing at 4%, and our economy is growing at 1.3%. Now, we're in a very different road than what I think the people of the world expected for the United States of America. And if I'm elected president of this country, I will get us back on a road of growth and prosperity and strength. As we've seen over the last year, the world needs American leadership. I think we look around and we say, why is it we're at the mercy of events? Why are we not shaping events? And the other day, the president said that, you know, he has a vision for what's going to happen in the Middle East, but that there are going to be bumps in the road along the way. You know, I don't consider 20 or 30,000 people dying in Syria just a bump in the road, or a Muslim Brotherhood president in Egypt a bump in the road. I don't consider the killing of our diplomats in Libya as a bump in the road, and I sure as heck don't consider Iran becoming nuclear a bump in the road. We need someone who recognizes the seriousness of what's ahead and is willing to lead. The administration has characterized their foreign policy as leading from behind. I call that following. It's time for America to lead, and we will lead again. Now, it's difficult to lead the world if we have an economy that's not thriving and putting people to work. It's difficult to lead the world when you have a president deciding to cut our military commitment by $1 trillion. That's $1,000 billion over the next decade. The Secretary of Defense, as I said, has called that a devastating series of cuts to our military. Do you realize that our Navy is it is smaller. Our Navy is smaller in terms of the number of ships than any time since 1917. And our Air Force is older and smaller than any time since it was founded in 1947. And yet we continue to take funding out of our military. This idea of $1 trillion in cuts to our military is wrong. When I'm elected President of the United States, we will restore our military. We will not cut our military commitment. And let me note, not coincidentally, that someone has calculated how many jobs will be lost in Pennsylvania if those $1 trillion in cuts go through. It's 39,000 jobs. We can't afford that. So we recognize the consequence of what the president is doing is severe for the people in Pennsylvania. It's severe for the entire nation. And in fact, because of the world's demand for American leadership, it's severe for the entire world. I know what it takes to get this country going again. The president wants to go down the same path he's been on for the last 4 years. He wants to keep the status quo. I don't think we can afford 4 more years like the last 4 years. The president calls his campaign slogan, forward. I call it forewarned. All right, we know where it heads. We don't want to go there. President thinks we need another stimulus. How did that last stimulus work out? Not so well. The president wants to grow government. I think government should be smaller, not bigger. I don't want it to take more from us. There's one new agenda item the president has. Of course, he raised taxes with Obamacare, but he's got another tax in mind. He wants to raise the income tax. I don't want to raise taxes on the American people, not when our economy is in the kind of trouble it's in. I will not raise taxes on middle-income Americans. And of course, the president wants to continue to be able to take your tax dollars, and he calls it invest it where he thinks it will do best, all right? He likes to pick winners and losers, although his experience is mostly picking losers. Look, he takes your money and puts it into Solyndra and Fisker and Tesla and Enter One, and one after the other of these things. Look, it is not government that guides our economy. Our economy does not run because we have bureaucrats telling us what to invest in or what jobs to have. What our economy runs on is free people pursuing their dreams. That's what makes America work. And I've got a plan. I've got a plan to help free people pursue their dreams and get this economy going. And the good news is this. It'll create 12 million jobs, putting Americans back to work again. And by the way, as we have those 12 million jobs created, you're going to find competition among employers trying to hire the best people. And so wages are going to go up again. Take-home pay is going to go up again. We've had 4 years. We've had 4 years where take-home pay goes down. That's the wrong way. We can't continue. Did you see the median income in America has dropped by some $4,000 over the last 4 years? Median income is about $50,000. You drop that by $4,000. Think what that does to American families. Think how difficult it is for them to be able to put food on the table at the end of the week. This is just not right. The president's policies have not worked. My policies to create 12 million jobs will bring more take-home pay, more hope, and more prosperity for every family in America. And there are 5 things. There are 5 things that I'll do. Number 1, to get this economy going. 5 steps. Number 1, take advantage of our energy, our coal, our oil, our gas, our nuclear, our renewables. And by the way, that's not just a slogan. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to double the number of permits and licenses we give for drilling on federal lands and federal waters. I'm going to make sure we have regulations that keep our air and our water clean, but I'm not going to have regulators keep us from being able to use our coal. It's a resource we must be able to continue to use. And we're going to get that pipeline from Canada if I have to build it myself. Now, number 2, I want trade to work for us. I want trade to work for us. I want to open up new markets for us to have trade and to sell our goods. They often create higher paying jobs than even the domestic jobs. So I want more trade for us. But when nations cheat like China has cheated, I will stop it. We've got to do that. Number three, our workers need the skills to succeed. I want training programs that do that. We have 47 different federal training programs, 8 different agencies. Think of the overhead, the redundancy, the ineffectiveness. I want to take that money that's being spent by Washington, bundle it up and send it back to Pennsylvania and say, you create your own programs that work best for your own people. And I want our kids in public schools to be able to get the very best education, the kind of education that these men and women have fought to get themselves. I want them to have terrific schools that are the best in the world. We're not there today. It's time for us to put our kids and their parents and the teachers first and put the union behind.